I bought my Faveka property in North Georgia to get away from people like Karen, you know the type, the ones who think the world revolves around their Pinterest boards, HOA newsletters, and passive-aggressive signs about lawn length and mailboxes. My land was outside the HOA lines deliberately, and I intended to keep it that way. I wanted space, quiet, and the kind of peace you only get when your neighbors are a good distance and a couple fences away. But if peace was what I came looking for, what I got that Saturday morning in June was absolute chaos. I was sipping black coffee on my porch, watching the mist rise off my pasture, when I noticed something off. Cars everywhere. Not just a few vehicles pulling off the county road either. I'm talking lines of SUVs, rental vans, Teslas with satin bows on the handles, and even a party bus turning down my gravel drive like it had every right to be there. I blinked. I thought maybe they were lost. Then I saw the banner. Tied between two of my pecan trees was a full-color vinyl sign that read, in elegant script, "Welcome to the wedding of Madeline and Connor, June 18. I choked on my coffee. Who in the world were Madeline and Connor? And more importantly, what in the ever-loving hell were they doing, getting married on my property? I threw on boots and walked fast toward the commotion. And by the time I reached the lower fielder one, I hadn't demoed in 2 weeks, and still had my old hay rake sitting. I was met with a literal wedding planner holding a clipboard and shouting directions through a headset mic. Behind her, 20 guys were hauling folding chairs. There was a flower arch set up right in front of my pond. A mobile bar trailer was backing in beside my tractor shed. And worst of all, a DJ was testing speakers with Mary You by Bruno Mars without asking a single soul if he had permission to be here. I marched toward the planner and shouted over the music, "Excuse me, what is going on?" She gave me that fake event smile. "Oh hi, are you one of the vendors?" I blinked. "No, I'm the owner of this land." Her face dropped. You could see the blood drain from her cheeks as she stared at her clipboard, then back at me, then at the chaos unfolding on my property like a Hallmark movie on steroids. "Oh, I was told this was a permitted location, that it belonged to Karen Morrison, the HOA president." I felt the back of my neck tighten. "Karen Morrison does not own this property." "I do. And no one asked my permission for any of this." She immediately called someone on her headset. "Yeah, we have an issue. The owner is here." "No, the actual owner." Within minutes, guess who strutted over in an all-white pantsuit, holding a clipboard like she was the Queen of Buckingham? That's right, Karen Morrison. She waved her bony fingers toward the planner like I wasn't even there. "I told you we'd be fine. I know the owner. He's never home on weekends." I stepped in front of her. "Funny identity. Recall ever giving you permission to use my land for a wedding with 200 guests?" Karen gave me that dismissive chuckle, like I was just some bumpkin in boots she didn't need to deal with. "Come on now," she cooed. "It's one little wedding, and it's not like you're using this field. We've already set up. The bride's about to walk down the aisle." "You trespassed," I snapped. "This is a felony-level, illegal use of private property. I could have this entire wedding shut down in 5 minutes flat." Karen rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a couple hours. You'll get your land back by sunset." But what Karen didn't know, what she clearly underestimated, is that I wasn't just a quiet guy who owned land. A serious one. And once someone crosses a line this far, there's no going back. The guests kept arriving. Catering trucks were unloading chafing dishes near my barn. Kids were running around like it was a theme park. And the DJ was still testing the mic. "Now, yellin'. Check, check. Let's get this party started." I took a long breath, turned around. Dan walked calmly back to my house, but not to hide. To begin a quiet little plan, one that would make Karen's little wedding the most unforgettable disaster of her HOA career. Back in my house, the tension in my jaw was nothing compared to the adrenaline now racing through my veins. Karen had made one mistake too many, and this wasn't just a petty violation of some imaginary HOA rule. No, this was criminal trespass, property abuse, unauthorized use of private land for profit, and I had the proof, the receipt, and the motive to make sure every second of that wedding blew up in her smug face. But I wasn't about to call the sheriff just yet. See, Karen was the kind of person who thrived on drama, who could spin any confrontation into a sob story for the HOA Facebook page. If I called the cops too early, she'd cry about how I ruined her niece's once-in-a-lifetime day, and people would rally around her like she was the victim. No, what I needed was leverage, not just to stop this wedding, but to ensure she could never, ever do something like this again. And I knew just how to get it. I grabbed my phone, walked back out discreetly, and started recording everything. I filmed the catering crew setting up a full buffet near my garage. I zoomed in on the wedding planner giving directions in my field. I got close-ups of license plates, the decorations hung from my trees, the sound equipment wired into my external outlets without permission. I even filmed the porta potties someone had the nerve to place next to my vegetable beds, without a single courtesy call. And when I was done, I sent it all to myself, Google Drive, external hard drive, cloud backup. I made sure there wasn't a single angle Karen could weasel out of. Then I pulled up the county assessor's site, highlighted the parcel ID number, and printed off the tax records, proving without a doubt that I owned the land. Not Karen, not the HOA, me, and me alone. You'd be surprised how often people like her think HOA means they can control land outside their jurisdiction. They can't, and once you have paperwork, they fold fast. But I wasn't stopping there. I pulled out my old trail camera, the one I usually used for deer spotting, and mounted it behind a tree, aimed directly at the wedding site. Not only would I get real-time photos of everyone trespassing, but it was every movement, every guest arriving or drinking or dancing on my soil would be recorded and timed. While the final touches of the ceremony kicked off, I climbed back onto my porch with a legal pad and a glass of water, and I started making a list. Karen Morrison, trespassing, illegal event coordination, personal profit from private land use wedding planner, aiding unauthorized use of private property DJ, commercial operation without permit catering team, health code violation, guests, trespassing, en masse, damages, lawn destruction, soil compaction, potential septic risk from unapproved restroom use. But here's where the story turned darker. As I watched from a distance, sipping my water, I noticed Karen wasn't just hosting this wedding, she was profiting. She didn't know I was watching from my binoculars. When I saw her collect envelopes, actual payment envelopes, from the wedding planner and what looked like the bride's mother, she didn't even try to hide it. She took them, smiled, and dropped them in her designer purse like she was collecting tickets at a carnival. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a favor. This was a business. She was using my land to rent out as a venue, probably charging thousands per event and thinking no one would ever notice. That changed everything. I took out my camera again, snapped clip. Karen laughing, hugging guests, giving speeches like it was her backyard. Meanwhile, the bride and groom had no idea they were standing on stolen soil. As they lined up for photos, a drone lifted off from behind the DJ tent. That's right, they were filming aerial wedding footage over my house, my private land, my roof, my personal life broadcast without my permission. That's when I made the decision. No more slow build, no more benefit of the doubt. I walked back inside and placed a calm, quiet call to a man named Deputy Marks, an old friend of mine who worked with the county sheriff's office. We'd served together in the National Guard. The guy owed me a favor, and more importantly, he had no love for HOA overreach. Marks, I've got 200 people trespassing on my land right now. I have proof of everything. Think you can swing by in uniform and make an impression? There was a pause. You want it quiet or public? I smiled. Public. He gave a little laugh. I'll bring the full unit. 5 squad cars and a drone of our own. I nodded. Perfect. Make sure you bring one of those citation books. The real thick ones. I hung up the phone. Outside, the music started. Bruno Mars again. Bridesmaids started walking down a burlap aisle someone had rolled over my clover patch. Karen stood tall with her clipboard, taking selfies and laughing with the DJ. What she didn't know was that in less than 20 minutes, her little empire was about to crash. Right there in front of every wedding guest, she'd deep every HOA board member she was trying to impress, and the camera crew capturing the perfect day. The ironic part, she still thought she was in control. I could hear the buzz of the wedding crowd echoing through the treelinglisses, clinking. The low thump of a rented DJ's bass setup. People laughing like they were at a 5-star vineyard. But none of it felt real anymore. All I saw was a battlefield, and at the center of it was HOA Karen, standing like a self-proclaimed queen on a throne made of stolen land and fabricated authority. And she was about to be I waited exactly 15 more minutes before I saw the first squad car roll up behind the trees. No sirens guessed that quiet, deliberate crunch of tires on gravel. Then a second vehicle followed. Then a third. Behind them came Deputy Marks. Stepping out like this was just another day on duty only this time. He had backup, and I could already see his body cam blinking red. He spotted me across the drive, nodded once, and motioned to the others. Time to make an entrance. They didn't storm in guns. Purposeful, calculated, like sharks circling a clueless seal. The officers strolled right onto the property, through the temporary archway decorated in baby S breath, and white roses right past the horrified wedding photographer who froze mid-shot and approached the bride and groom first. Deputy Marks was calm, respectful. "Sorry to interrupt, folks. Can I speak with whoever is in charge of this event?" The groom blinked, totally confused. The bride looked like she might burst into tears. Before either of them could respond, Karen came marching over in her shiny heels, throwing her arms wide like some hostess at a charity gala. "I'm the coordinator," she announced proudly. "What seems to be the problem, officers?" Marks pulled out his notepad like it was a sword. "Ma'am, we've received a complaint of trespassing, unlawful assembly, and unauthorized use of private land for a commercial event." Karen blinked. "Excuse me." "This property belongs to Mr. Hawkins," Marks continued, gesturing to me as I stood with my arms crossed by the porch. "We have full documentation, satellite imaging, parcel tax, IDs, and video evidence, confirming that none of this was approved by the rightful landowner." Karen tried to laugh. "Oh please, I've hosted dozens of events here. It's community-ish." Marks didn't even flinch. "That land was never annexed into the HOA. It is privately owned, titled, and taxed. Every guest here, including yourself, is now in direct violation of multiple trespassing and county codes." She stammered, but Marks wasn't finished. "Were any permits filed for this wedding?" "Permits? This is a family affair." He turned to one of the officers, who was now filming the entire scene with a high-definition handheld. "Officer McKinley, please begin recording statements from vendors. Start with the caterer. I want names, contact info, and invoices." Another officer approached the DJ booth and unplugged the sound system mid. Silence fell instantly. Karen's mouth hung open. The guests were now whispering, pointing, and backing away from the lawn. The groom was pale. The bride looked seconds away from a meltdown. Karen turned back to me, furious. "You called the cops on a wedding." I stepped forward for the first time. "You invaded my land, installed a tent, damaged my lawn, plugged into my home's electricity, and used my garden hose for your little wedding wonderland all without so much as a text message. But I didn't know you made money off of it, Karen. I saw the cash envelopes. I have the footage. You turned my property into your personal venue and profited while I paid the taxes." For a second, she looked around. The bride's father was yelling at her now. The planner was already speaking to one of the deputies, nervously flipping through receipts. Karen could see her social capital crashing before her eyes. But the final nail came when Deputy Marks held up a citation book thicker than a dictionary. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "you are being cited for unauthorized use of private property, commercial event operation without permit, health code violations for unlicensed catering, misuse of utility hookups, and trespassing." He handed her the stack of citations. It looked like a college textbook. "Oh," he added, "and Mr. Hawkins will be pursuing civil damages as well. We've advised him on the procedure. Given the extent of today's evidence, you may also be liable for environmental remediation." Karen looked like she was going to faint. And the best part, every single guest was now filming her. The bride's aunt, the groomsman, the DJ who had nothing else to do. Karen was being exposed, live, in front of the same community she used to bully into submission. Her voice cracked as she stammered something about being misunderstood, but no one listened. The wedding was over. Guests slowly walked toward their cars. Vendors packed up awkwardly. The photographer, bless her heart, simply left the camera bag and walked away, shaking her head. The bride and groom, they didn't even say goodbye. Karen stood in the middle of my ruined backyard, holding a clipboard, surrounded by shredded petals, half-eaten and the crushed fantasy of her wedding empire. I didn't say another word. I didn't need to, because justice, that day, wore a badge and mirrored sunglasses, and it came with citations measured by the pound. She finally realized this wasn't just a bad day. This was the beginning of the end. The following Monday, my inbox practically exploded with legal updates, news, alerts, and emails from neighbors who were finally waking up to the reality of who Karen really was. Turns out, all it takes is one colossal public embarrassment to peel back the carefully curated mask of a power-hungry HOA tyrant, and now that the cracks had begun to show, the whole neighborhood was ready to watch her empire collapse. First came the county citation, fees over $12,000 in violations related to trespassing, event hosting, environmental damage, and improper utility usage. But that was just the appetizer, because while the DJ was still unplugging his gear and guests were awkwardly carrying half-eaten cupcakes off my property, I'd already been speaking with my attorney about filing a civil lawsuit for property damage. And given the photos, the video footage, when Karen was served the official complaint at her front door, I heard from a neighbor that she collapsed into a lawn chair. That same neighbor sent me a photo of the document, and attached a note that said simply, "About time someone did it." But legal pressure wasn't the only thing brewing. See, I wasn't the only one Karen had bullied. In the days after the wedding debacle, I was flooded with messages from other homeowners who had been fined, harassed, or threatened by Karen's petty enforcement tactics. One couple had been cited for having the wrong shade of beige on their front door. Another was fined $300 because their garden gnome violated visual harmony standards. Some had fought back, but most had just paid the fines and kept quiet. Until now, Karen's abuse of power had finally been dragged into the light, and now, even the most passive residents were ready to act. That Thursday, a group of us called an emergency HOA board meeting, and this time, we weren't showing up to be talked down to. The meeting was held at the clubhouse, but Karen didn't show up. She knew what was coming. We had the HOA bylaws printed out, citations highlighted, testimonies ready, and even a petition signed by over 75% of the community members, demanding her immediate removal from the HOA presidency. The board didn't resist. In fact, one of the treasurers leaned across the table and said, "Honestly, I've been waiting for someone to shut her down for years." With her removal officially voted on and passed, the rest of the HOA board began investigating the misuse of HOA funds. Someone had a screenshot showing Karen had used community money to pay for a mobile restroom trailer for her daughter's wedding. Another pointed out the landscaping company she always hired was owned by her nephew. The deeper they dug, but it didn't stop there. Remember the bride and groom? They weren't so thrilled either. The groom's father, a local business owner with deep pockets and a mean legal team, filed his own lawsuit against Karen. Apparently, the venue he thought he had rented was fully permitted and insured, but Karen had lied. She never told them she didn't actually own the land. The lawsuit alleged fraud, misrepresentation, and emotional damages from the wedding being interrupted by police presence and media exposure, because someone had uploaded a video compilation of the whole wedding disaster online. The video included police arriving, Karen arguing with the deputies, and the awkward moment when the DJ's music was cut mid-sentence. It was titled, "HOA President's Illegal Wedding Busted by Police on Private Land." It went viral overnight. Over 1.2 million views in 3 days. The comment section was brutal. And suddenly, Karen wasn't just dealing with legal drama and neighborhood fallout, she was dealing with public shame. Her name became synonymous with arrogance, entitlement, and HOA corruption. She even had to delete all her social media accounts, including her Facebook group where she used to educate the community on HOA policies. People started referring to her as the wedding wrecker. Even vendors began distancing themselves. The florist posted a statement saying they were unaware of the unauthorized location, and the catering company took down all photos from the event and refunded the couple out of fear of legal backlash. As for me, I had 3 contractors out that week, estimating land restoration for the damage her wedding left behind. My legal claim included their quotes, plus drone footage showing the compacted grass, ruts from parked vehicles, and leftover trash along the tree line. Karen's insurance company refused to cover her. They claimed she acted with willful negligence, so the bills were stacking up just for her, and still, she hadn't said a single word to me. No apology, no explanation. But I didn't need one, because everything she had built, her power, her status, her precious HOA title, was burning to the ground, and she'd done it all to herself. Or because she couldn't be bothered to ask for permission, because she thought she was above the rules, because she thought my land was hers to use. But the most poetic part, the county began reviewing property zoning in our neighborhood after the incident. And when they took a closer look at Karen's lot, they found her pool was 2 feet over the property line, onto my land. And I had proof, so I filed an official complaint. But I'll save that little twist for the grand finale. I didn't plan on going nuclear. At first, I just wanted an apology. Some honesty, a neighborly explanation for why she thought throwing a 210-person wedding on my land without asking was acceptable. But silence is a powerful confession, and in Karen's case, her silence told me everything I needed to know. She believed she was untouchable, but no one's untouchable when the law, the neighborhood, and the internet all turn against you at once. By the time the final court dates rolled around, Karen had stopped showing her face entirely. Her once daily HOA patrols ceased. No more passive-aggressive emails about fence colors, no more friendly reminders about garbage bins. She vanished from the public eye like a disgraced politician. Rumor had it she was hiding out at her sister's house in the next county, over trying to escape the humiliation. But karma has a long memory, and it wasn't done with her yet. Remember that zoning violation I mentioned? While she was busy dealing with lawsuits, fines, and online infamy, I filed a formal property encroachment claim with the county. It wasn't just some vague complaint. He had satellite imagery, property line surveys, and even county GIS overlays showing that her backyard pool deck extended a full 2.3 feet onto my land. At first, the county inspector didn't believe it. He said, "It's probably just a mistake from the builder. Happens all the time," until he saw the footage. The pool wasn't just encroaching, it was draining runoff water directly into a slope on my property, which caused erosion. The very slope where she hosted the wedding. It was all connected, an entire network of entitlement that she'd built, inch by inch, over years of unchecked arrogance. So I gave the county two options. Either Karen could pay me rent for the portion of land she had illegally built onto, or she could tear down the entire structure. They sent her an official notice. She chose to fight it, filed a count, claimed it was an unintentional misalignment during construction and that she had no idea the structure But unfortunately for her, I had records from 5 years ago, emails and permits she had pulled for pool expansion. One of them even referenced a setback variance request, which had been denied. Meaning, she knew. And that meant the fraud was provable. The court sided with me. Karen was ordered to remove the illegal portion of her pool deck within 45 days. And if she didn't, the county would fine her $1,000 per week and place a lien on her property. Guess what happened? Karen tried to sell her house to cover her mounting legal costs. But when buyers saw the pending lien and the viral video from the wedding still trending online, no one wanted to touch the place. The most interested party was an investor offering 45% under market value. And even he walked when he found out about the HOA corruption scandal. At the 46-day mark, the county brought in a demolition crew, and I watched from my back deck as jackhammers tore through the stone Karen had smugly shown off for years. Her pristine outdoor kitchen gone. The fire pit where she once hosted exclusive HOA member barbecues gone. The custom-built pergola hauled away in splinters. And she still owed me for the wedding damage. Her lawyer tried to negotiate. They offered a partial payment and a private apology. But I wasn't interested in half measures. We settled, but not before she agreed to issue a written statement to the entire admitting fault for the unauthorized wedding, misuse of funds, trespassing, and illegal construction. The letter had to be emailed and posted in the clubhouse bulletin for 60 days. It ended with, "I abused my authority, disrespected my neighbor's property, and failed this community. I am sorry." And just like that, the HOA Karen who once ruled our neighborhood like a petty suburban dictator was reduced to a footnote on a bulletin board. But here's the final twist. 6 months later, I hosted a block party, not out of spite but to reintroduce some normalcy. Some actual community spirit. No agendas, no drama, just a barbecue, music, lawn chairs, and laughter. Over 80 people showed up. One neighbor approached me and said, "It's funny, Karen always said she was creating a better community, but this feels like the first time we're actually a community." That's when it hit me. Sometimes, karma doesn't just punish bad people, it restores balance for everyone they trampled. As for the land she invaded, I had it leveled, seeded, and fenced properly. I even planted a Colorado blue spruce trees right where the wedding tent once stood. They'll take years to grow tall, but every time I water them, I smile, because they're rooted in something Karen never had: respect. And no, my property's finally peaceful. My neighbors are finally united. And HOA Karen, she's just a cautionary tale we tell new homeowners. Welcome to the neighborhood. Just don't throw a wedding on someone else's land.